I was out in the fields before the sun even thought about rising, my boots sinking into the soil my family's worked for generations. This land, tucked in the rolling hills of a quiet county, wasn't just dirt, it was blood, sweat, and promises kept since my great-grandfather cleared it with his bare hands in 1910. My dad broke his back building the fences that still stand, and I've spent 20 years turning this patch of forgotten farmland into a thriving operation. Every creak of the barn, every knot in the fence posts, I know like the back of my hand. So, when I saw a shiny Lexus SUV parked right on top of my freshly planted potato rows, I thought I was seeing things. I stood there, coffee mug in hand, staring at the tire tracks cutting through my crops. The no trespassing sign on the gate was apparently just decoration to whoever this was. Then she stepped out, blonde hair in a sharp bob, sunglasses perched like a crown, and a navy blazer that screamed, "I'm in charge." She was strutting through my dirt like it was her personal runway, clutching a clipboard like it gave her the right to be here. "You must be Sarah," she called, waving that clipboard like a flag of surrender. I didn't answer, just walked toward her, feeling the ground under my boots protest her presence. She introduced herself as Linda Harper, the new president of the Pine Valley HOA, which sat a half-mile up the road. "We're thrilled about our expansion plans," she said, her smile so bright it could have powered a city. I crossed my arms. Expansion into what, exactly? She gestured to my fields like she was unveiling a masterpiece. "Into the Greenbelt. Our new land stewardship initiative rezoned these open plots for community recreation." I blinked, letting her words hang in the air. Open plots? This was my farm, not some vacant lot. I tilted my head. "Ma'am, this is private property. My family zoned it for over a century." Linda waved her clipboard again, undeterred. "The HOA charter allows us to repurpose surrounding parcels for beautification. It'd be a huge win for the neighborhood if you'd relocate the livestock and unlock the barn for our prep work." I stared at her so long she shifted her weight, her heels sinking into the dirt. I didn't yell, didn't argue, just walked to her car, snapped photos of the license plate, the SUV on my crops, and her standing there with that ridiculous clipboard. "If you don't comply," she said, voice sharp, "we'll let the county handle it." 15 minutes later, 2 police cruisers rolled up. A stocky officer with kind eyes stepped out, followed by a younger deputy who looked fresh out of training. Linda rushed them like a kid tattling on a playground bully. "Officers, thank goodness. She's refusing to vacate HOA property." I leaned against the gate, arms crossed, waiting. The deputy approached cautiously. "Ma'am, we got a call about a property dispute. Do you have proof of ownership?" Without a word, I walked to the house, opened the old trunk by the living room window, and pulled out the 1910 deed, framed in glass, ink faded but clear. My name, my great-grandfather's name, the county seal, it was all there. I handed it to the deputy. He studied it, glanced at his partner, then at Linda. "This is original," he said, almost to himself. I nodded. "Been in my family since before that HOA had a single sidewalk." Linda's face turned the color of a ripe tomato. She lunged forward, arms flailing. "That can't be right. That land was mapped as green space in our expansion proposal." I laughed, just loud enough to sting. "You don't rewrite history with a clipboard." The officer stepped back, turning to Linda. "Ma'am, unless you've got a legal document overriding this deed, you're trespassing." Her jaw dropped. She stammered, stomped to her SUV, and peeled out, leaving a cloud of dust and her dignity behind. The officers apologized and left, but I knew this wasn't over. Women like Linda don't slink away after one embarrassment. They regroup. They scheme. Sure enough, by afternoon, a laminated sign was zip-tied to my gate. "Future Community Garden Site. Do not enter." I snorted, ripped it down, and tossed it onto the burn pile. This was war now, one I didn't ask for, but was damn sure going to win. My roots ran deeper than her manicured subby Shaun ever could. The next morning, the air felt heavy, like a storm was brewing. I poured my coffee and glanced out the kitchen window, half expecting another SUV on my crops. The fields were clear, but Linda's stunt buzzed in my head like a wasp. She hadn't just made a mistake, she'd come with paperwork, confidence, and a plan. I walked to the barn, opened the doors to let the dust dance in the sunlight, and spotted a photo of my dad, sweaty and grinning beside this very barn 20 years ago. He always said this land was a promise, one we had to fight for. I wasn't about to break it. I drove to the county clerk's office, where Mrs. Thompson, still behind the desk with her thermos of tea, greeted me warmly. I laid out the situation, an HOA president trying to annex my farm with fake claims. Her amusement turned to disbelief as she pulled up the zoning map, circling the HOA's boundary in red. "Your land's well outside their jurisdiction," she said. "It was excluded when the subdivision was approved because of your family's history. I asked for that in writing." She stamped a notarized statement, and I left with a shield of truth. Next stop was the Pine Valley HOA Clubhouse, a half-finished lodge with golf carts out front and a banner preaching Neighborhood Unity Week. Inside, residents were bickering over a bench's placement. When I introduced myself and explained Linda's trespass, the room went silent. I held up my deed and the county's letter. Heads turned to Linda, who sat at the table's head, arms crossed like a scolded queen. She stood, smiling too wide. "Just a misunderstanding. I thought the greenbelt included adjacent parcels." A man with a bushy mustache and a stack of bylaws cut in. "Linda, we can't expand onto private land, especially not agricultural zoning." Her smile cracked. The room shifted, and I left knowing I'd planted doubt. That night, a fake zoning violation notice appeared in my mailbox, claiming my barn was structurally unsound and demanding I cease using it. No county seal, just a signature from someone who, according to the county inspector, retired a year ago. I laughed, but it turned into a growl. Linda was playing dirty. I called my neighbor, Tom, the area's unofficial historian. He scratched his beard and nodded. Heard she tried this 2 towns over. Ran folks with livestock out with fake warnings and paperwork. Most caved before lawyering up. I wasn't most folks. I dug into public records and HOA forums, finding posts about Linda's tactics in other towns' obscure bylaws, fake citations, relentless paperwork. I printed them, building a file. Then, 2 days later, a glossy letter was stapled to my gate, Pine Valley Beautification Plan, with my land shaded as a proposed green space acquisition zone. It wasn't a plan, it was theft dressed in ink. I tore it down, laid out every document deed, zoning map, fake notices, flyers, and started connecting the dots. When I caught 2 teens unloading flags for an HOA tree planting event on my land, claiming Linda said it was approved, I sent them packing. The next day, I took my folder to the local newspaper. The editor, lounging in a second-hand recliner, whistled as he flipped through it. "HOA muscle tactics eating farmland?" That's a headline. We struck a deal, an inner-VYEW for a story. The reporter came to my farm, snapping photos of the gate, the fake signs, and the irrigation tubing chewed by Linda's community goats. The article, "Farmland Faces Forced Annexation," hit stands with my deed next to Linda's flyer. Neighbors rallied, some sharing their own run-ins with her like Douglas, whose wooded lot sheet-eyed for a water retention space. 3 days later, HOA board members showed up, looking sheepish. They handed me an apology letter, signed by 5 of 7 members, admitting Linda acted alone. They invited me to a community meeting. I went, not for them, but to keep Linda's lies from filling the silence. The hall was packed residents, farmers, reporters. I laid out everything. Fake citations, goats, tree flags, pressure. Linda tried interrupting, ranting about the greater good, but the crowd turned. Someone called out her shady shed permits. Another questioned her zoning knowledge. The board suspended her, but I wanted more. I handed them a cease and desist from my lawyer, Beverly, a sharp woman with a voice like gravel. Any further interference would mean court. Linda didn't stop. A county zoning officer showed up, claiming an anonymous complaint about my barn's safety. I showed him the reinforced beams and permits from 2 years ago. He muttered, "This looks stable," and left. That night, an envelope from the courthouse arrived. Linda was suing me for interference, trespassing, and emotional distress, claiming I'd smeared her reputation. I laughed until my sides ached. Beverly called it the weakest case she'd seen. We countersued for harassment, defamation, attempted land theft, and crop damages. In court, Linda arrived in an oversized pantsuit, clutching color-coded folders, delivering a theatrical speech about suburban harmony. The judge cut her off. Get to the point. She waved my newspaper interview as defamatory and called her flyer a suggestion. I handed the judge my EVY denke, the deed, zoning maps, fake notices, goat damage VY deo, her voicemail. By Exhibit 10, he'd had enough. Ma'am, stop digging. He dismissed her claims, ruled for me, and ordered her to pay damages, retract her flyers, and cease contact. Beverly whispered, "That'll teach her to mess with a farmer." I used the settlement to build a new fence, solar lights, remote gates, cameras. A local woodworker carved a sign, "Private property, not zoned for Linda." The story spread like wildfire. Neighbors stopped me at the market, thanking me. The HOA offered another apology, asking me to speak at a meeting not as a defendant, but as a voice for preservation. I went, told my family's story, and read Linda's own newsletter calling herself a VY scenary planner. The room laughed, then listened. Residents shared their own HOA pressures garden beds banned, tree houses torn down. I saw them start to question. A news clip of me at the gate with my sign went VY row, spliced with music and a quote. "Roots are stronger than rules." Strangers messaged, asking how to fight their HOAs. A woman said my story helped her save her pond. Linda resurfaced online as Linda for Green Justice, posting about unsanctioned animal waste near my fence. I countered with a VY deo on land use laws, panning my pasture at golden hour. This is stewardship. It buried her post. The HOA newsletter later announced her permanent removal and a retraction of her claims. I pinned it to my fridge with a goat-shaped magnet. I sent Linda a basket of tomatoes, honey, goat cheese, and a laminated deed. No note. The return address said enough. Spring came, and the farm hummed again. Wildflowers bloomed along the fence, a nod to my mom's old dream. The VY Rao clip led to a book offer. I wrote soft fenced in, fought back saw, not to shame Linda, but to show how lies dressed in paperwork can steal what's yours. It found readers in small towns, became a tool for farmers and landowners. A network even made a short drama, the actress nailing my quiet grit. Kids from a local school VY cited after reading the book, one wanting to be a land rights lawyer. I let them hold chickens, move feed buckets, and left feeling like I'd gained more than they had. At a harvest fair, the town gave me a Citizen of the Year plaque. Linda was there in a sundress, no clipboard, just watching. We nodded once, nothing more. Her reputation was shot. Council meetings turned her away. I didn't pity her. I felt settled. Now, the farm's quiet again. The wind's just wind. I am planting, tending, protecting. People stop by farmers with their own HOA battles. Neighbors curious about the sign. A council member asked me to speak at a landowner forum. I did, boots and all, and the applause shook me. Law students asked me to add VYSE, their rural legal clinic. I'm considering it. This land isn't just mine, Anna Marie. It's a story, a warning, a blueprint. It's not for sale. A new sign hangs by the gate, carved by a neighbor. This land was built, not bought. It says it all. So what do you think? Was I too hard on Linda? Or did she deserve every bit of it? Should HOAs have any power over private land? Or are they just legalized bullies? Could you stand your ground like this? Or would the paperwork wear you down? Drop a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe if you're ready to dig into more stories like this. Let's keep the conversation going.